It is February 28th, 2021, and in my area, there are billboards everywhere saying we need substitute teachers. So let's get prepared.
Substitute Teachers Lounge.
All right, guys, substitute teachers are back. Let me tell you what the students told me in my classes this past week. If you remember, I guess the COVID stuff all started getting a lot of attention mid-March of 2020. Even about, I guess through July, it was rare that you knew somebody that had caught COVID. Now, everybody in the classroom knew somebody been a victim of the dreaded virus, including several members of my own family. So I say all that to say this. I'm getting my second vaccine this week. Our county has had the lowest incident rate than the ones they've had in the last several months. So we are back. We are coming back. This week, we are having our last 2 days of hybrid, where half of the students are there one day and the next day the other half are there. Then we're actually taking 3 days of virtual because we're all getting our second dose of the Moderna vaccine. And just in case we happen to fall into the category of some people that are getting side effects, nausea and that kind of thing, they don't want to have to search for substitute teachers en masse all at one time. So we decided to go virtual. But then, March 8th, 2021, everybody is back. Incident rates are down. Lots of people will have vaccines. Let's hope that we are all trending in the right direction. And I'm telling you, just like I said in the opening, substitute teachers are back because you know that I officiate sports, so I go around to a lot of schools, and I haven't been to a school in 2 weeks where I haven't seen something on their marquee or just a comment from an administrator where they're saying, we need substitute teachers. I know in the hallways the last 2 weeks, even though we're hybrid, there are substitute teachers everywhere. So guys, if you have been waiting, first of all, now is the time. Now, if you don't even have your paperwork filled out, you're kind of behind the ball, but don't give up. You can probably get that. They might even expedite it now. It took me about 30 days before anybody, approved the paperwork, but I bet they're going to expedite that process as much as they can. I hope substitute teachers are back in your area too. Let's get started on what we need to know. So get that paperwork done first of all, and hopefully most of you that are listening to this have already done that. Now, what you're going to be most interested in loading, downloading, installing, whatever you want to call it, is the Frontline app. Now, in my school district, they actually send you directions when you're approved as a substitute teacher. Our certification is called a Level 4. It's called an emergency certification for substitute teachers. So that's what we all have. And they normally send you directions with all of those 30-page documents that you're filling out to show you how to set up your account on Frontline. Frontline used to be called ESOP when I started substitute teaching over 2 years ago. Now it's called Frontline. Now here's what I would recommend. There is an app for Frontline, but what I actually like to do is on my iPhone, log in on through your Safari or whatever browser you use to get to the internet and log into Frontline on their website. I think it's better to just do that, pull up a page on Safari, and then follow the directions Safari gives you for making that a app, or it's not really an app, but you can call it an app because that's what it will remind you of, that you can then have on your home page or your phone. Then when you touch that, you just pull up Frontline. If you save your login credentials, it's going to log you in automatically, and I actually like to work with that. Now, let me give you a reminder. When you first get on there, if you want to do all your substitute job tracking for free, you can do that. All you need is the Frontline app, and what you'll get in a habit of doing is when you're looking for substitute teachers' jobs, and by the way, I have pop-ups that I see all the time, every day now, every day for substitute teachers. I'll go ahead and say this. I remember they weren't in that high a demand maybe 2 months ago. Occasionally, when I would see a job pop up, everybody was still too nervous. Most of those jobs didn't get taken care of. Now I see them going away pretty quickly. Somebody picks up the job. So how you're going to do that in Frontline, you can just follow the directions. But I will tell you that you want to check the schools that you want to be alerted for, okay? That you want to see job listings for. You can go through that process. I'm not going to go into a full show about Frontline. I might do that here in a couple weeks just so everybody is super familiar, because not everybody uses all the features it has. But you're going to go into Frontline. You're going to choose the schools you want to be notified for. Then what you'll do when you pull up that page, it won't refresh itself, so you'll have to click refresh. I remember in the old days before I went to a pay app, which I'll talk about here in a moment, I would go into Frontline. I would refresh. The night before I wanted a job, I would probably refresh every 15 minutes to see if anything was new there. And that worked. That worked for the most part. If I didn't have a job that night, I would wake up and start refreshing every 5 minutes, and I normally got a job of some type. You can also set it up so that it calls you. You enter a phone number. It actually automatically calls you when something pops up. Just keep in mind, it's calling a lot of people. So that is another way you can do it. What I choose to do instead is go to one of the pay apps. Now, I should mention, let me back up just a little bit, because once you continue to be a substitute teacher, you're going to get on some preferred list. You're going to become comfortable with teachers you like to substitute teach for and that they like to have you. So what those teachers are going to do on Frontline, in fact, I see this now because since I'm a full-time substitute teacher, I actually have to schedule my absences if I need to do so. If I had favorite subs, I could enter that into Frontline, and then every time I would post an absence, it would send a notification to my favorite subs first. And I'm not sure what the time limit is. Obviously, if you reject it right away, then it would just go on to the next one, or it would be posted publicly. But that is good for you. Once you get familiar with those teachers, they get familiar to you. They will do their substitutes that way. So hopefully you'll get on a lot of substitute teachers' favorite list. One other thing I should mention about Frontline is that when you refresh and you see those absences, let me tell you what I used to do and tell you that there's no consequences. You might think this sounds bad, but I would, as soon as I saw a job come up, I would click accept immediately without even looking at the job so that I can make sure I get that before anyone else. Now, early on, I didn't really care what job I had. As I got a little more selective, or I learned what I was better at, then I would still do that. I would accept the job, and then there's a way, if I do it quickly, I think you've got like 30 minutes to an hour maybe longer than that, I could go back in and turn the job back. Now, I was concerned about that when I first did it because I was worried that the more I did that possibly their algorithm wouldn't show me as many things, but that does not appear to be the case and certainly won't now because substitute teachers are too much needed. So if you want to do that, I do that. I go in, I accept the job, and then if I decide I really don't want that job, I'll turn it back in. Now, I should say one thing that you can't do is accept a job and then continue looking for other jobs because once you accept one, it no longer sends you notifications because you've got a job. I have had instances where I'll accept a job that I plan to keep. And then I'll have one of my teachers that likes to use me contact and say, are you available? Now, as long as the first job I accepted is not for someone I know, I don't feel guilty at all of telling the second teacher, yes, let me go back in and turn back in the job I accepted because I want your job. And then I'll send them a text when I've done that, and then they can actually send the job directly to me. The system will know. You know, the first thing I mentioned a couple of minutes ago was that it will send you emails automatically if you're on the preferred list. In this list, where they know I'm available, they can just go ahead, look for me, click it, and I'm automatically assigned to their job. So that's pretty cool that you can do it that way too. So Frontline is a good tool to use. Now, you're going to, maybe you won't, but I certainly did. Part of it was fun playing what I like to call the substitute teacher lottery every day. But then I was made aware, it's kind of funny, I was made aware in a weird way because a teacher that wanted me came up and said, have you learned how to hack the Frontline system yet? And I'm saying, hack? How could substitute teachers possibly hack the system? Well, she was wrong. It wasn't a hack. It's actually a couple of apps. One of them is called Jobulator. One of them is called SubAlert. I think they're both roughly $5.95 a month. I think you can save some money if you want to do that annually. I know the first year that I signed up for one of them, I actually did it monthly and then discontinued it in June with the intent of firing it back up in August and just saving for a few months. But then I got to thinking, teachers all the time, they might know in June about a workshop they have in September, and they might want to go ahead and schedule that. So I stopped doing that. I wanted to get on the teachers I like to teach for first, and so I started paying for it the whole year. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I'm a full-time substitute teacher right now. I will be for this whole school year until we finish in May. Then I'll probably be back in the open market come the fall of 2021. So I still left that subscription I had paid for a year, and I didn't even pursue trying to get a refund because I was kind of curious how the pandemic affected substitute teachers' jobs. So that's one of the reasons I know that there's a lot more substitute teacher need right now because I see those alerts pop up all the time. So here's the conclusion that I've come up with Jobulator and SubAlert. In fact, I mentioned this way back on episode 2 of this podcast. Today is episode 92, by the way. So 90 weeks ago, I mentioned this, that I like Jobulator best over SubAlert, and some people like SubAlert better. Well, it's funny how things happen. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a geek, so I thought I would just run a test and test them both. And I found out that in my area, SubAlert actually alerts you a few seconds, sometimes as early as 45 seconds earlier than Jobulator. Now, that's not the same everywhere. In fact, the test I ran might still just have been random results. But for that reason, I'm now using SubAlert instead of Jobulator. I used them both at the same time for 2 months. That's how I conducted that study. So you can go to that trouble if you want to. They both cost the same thing, but here's what they will do for you. Both of those apps are designed to refresh every 60 seconds. You don't even have to have the app open as long as you have in your preferences when you do this subscription that you want to be alerted immediately. Then as soon as a teacher posts a job, it finds those jobs. It really runs on top of Frontline, even though neither of those have to be open for you to get your notification. So it runs on top of Frontline. And the way it will work, it's kind of funny. Let me tell you a story. One of the teachers that was teaching across the hall from me one day when I was a sub, he posted a job, and it popped up on my notification, and I accepted it because I like teaching for him. And he came across the hallway later in the day, and he said, "Greg, I clicked the button to post my absence, and you had accepted it 7 seconds later." Now, that was just luck of the draw because I must have hit it right when SubAlert refreshes. I don't know if they refresh as soon as they receive a job and then again 60 seconds after that. I know it's every 60 seconds, but I don't know if it's 60 seconds right on the minute marker. I don't know if it's when you turn on your app and it's 60 seconds. I really don't know. But it's every 60 seconds. Obviously, if SubAlert and Jobulator are both doing that, their 60 seconds are running concurrently. Maybe, if one of them started at 05 past the minute and one started at 15 seconds past the minute, you're going to see that first one sooner. It might just be luck of the draw. It might be certain areas of the country that see one quicker than the other. So, and I'm sorry, English teachers, I know that should have been more quickly. I got to brush up on my English. But anyway, that's what those guys are good for. Now, once you get your subscription to either Jobulator or SubAlert, they will keep track of all your scheduled jobs, all your past jobs, now they're pulling the information from Frontline, but they'll do all that. I am actually looking at my iPhone right now. I've got my SubAlert app open, and I'm looking at the settings. The first thing you'll see in the settings is notification options, and you can set up the options any way you want to. I basically have mine turned on to banner style that's persistent so that it's always on my phone. It will alert me on a lock screen, through the notification and banners, and it will play sounds. And I've got the badges turned on. So it's just like anything else that you set up an alert for. It's got notification sounds that are specific just to SubAlert. One feature I like, and I like this feature better than the way Jobulator does it, it's got an auto-sync scheduled jobs to your calendar app. So it automatically loads it right into your calendar app. If you're just using the app that came with your smartphone, it's going to load it directly to that. And it's an easy way to keep track of all the jobs you've had schedules, all the jobs that are going to be coming up soon. One feature that I haven't used yet, but maybe I'll start once I get to fall of 2021. It says use Google Maps for directions. You can turn that on, and that's awesome, man. I mean, it will take you directly to the address that's loaded for the school. You might want to double check it just to make sure. But more settings, it says, are available on the website. So you can turn on text messaging job alerts, phone call job alerts, desktop, email, do not disturb times. Now, that's kind of a nice feature. That links to your Frontline. Some of you would just do that on Frontline, but it does connect you with the do not disturb time. It links with your Frontline. All that stuff happens in both of those apps. So there's a lot of substitute teachers using that. but there's many, many, many more that aren't using it. So you've got a leg up on everybody if you're using one of those two apps, Jobulator or SubAlert, of more likely getting the jobs that you want more quickly than everyone else. So, it's going to be great coming up here. This is the end of February, so we've got March, April, and May. I know that our testing procedure in this area is called K-Prep. The K stands for Kentucky, of course. And they did confirm that this past week that even though we have been virtual most of the time, they will have the K-Prep this school year, I should say. It will happen during May. Normally there's about 2 weeks after that. We had a lot of snow days. So much I expect the state to be forgiving with them and not make the kids come later. I just don't know, especially because most of the time we were doing virtual. The only time we really had a snow day was because it was more of an ice day. We were getting used to teaching virtual when something was going on, but it just so happened there was so many people without power, they had to cancel the classes completely because there were so many students that couldn't even get into internet whether they wanted to or not. So that's what we were doing in our area. And we're going to do K-Prep. There's probably going to be 2 weeks of school after that. It's a hard 2 weeks to teach after K-Prep. We normally just do a lot of refresher things and not a whole lot of intense learning situations. But there is no doubt, guys, now is the time to get fired up about substitute teaching. Is the pandemic over? No. Is it in most areas significantly going down? Yes. Are there a significant number of substitute teachers and teachers who are getting vaccines? Yes, thank goodness. And hopefully you and your family can get vaccines too as soon as possible. But again, I'll close the way I open because there are banners, in fact, it's not just substitute teachers. There's banners all over the place for bus drivers, kitchen cooks, everything you can think of. But if you've been putting off substitute teaching, now is the time. You can pretty much, for the most part, in most areas, call your own shots. Call your own jobs because they need us that badly. So hopefully you've got all the paperwork done. You can start right away. Make sure you're loaded on Frontline. Since there will be a shortage of substitute teachers, you probably can be a little selective, but starting out, I wouldn't encourage you to. So use Frontline if you're getting jobs all right on Frontline. Well, don't worry about paying for the app. But if you like to get your favorite jobs, your favorite teachers at your favorite schools, go ahead and drop the $5.95 or so for either Jobulator, SubAlert. They both have trials, by the way. Try them both concurrently for a month or two. I think the trial might just be a month. Try them together for a month. See which one you like better. I'll stick with SubAlert, and we're going to have a lot of work to do in the next couple of months. So, all right, substitute teachers, get excited. You're going to start getting jobs again if you're not already, and it's going to be a good last 3 months of the school season. Let's get this darn pandemic behind us. I hope your family stays healthy, and let's get those kids to keep their education flowing. We'll see you next week. Music provided by Ben Sound.